So I've been invited along by Mazda to drive this, the new 6e, here in the UK. And I was like, oh, nice, exciting. But then I realised this is still the left-hand drive version with foreign plates. So basically, how do I make this less boring for you to drive the same car, just in a different country? Wait! This is the BYD Seal. This is a Chinese car. This Mazda 6e is also a Chinese car with a Japanese badge. This has a very low nose, so better for aerodynamics, and is a very sporty, angry looking thing. This is more family friendly. What I do like about the Mazda 6e is this section here. All of this lights up, your DRLs, and when you're charging it, it shows you how much charge is in the car. This doesn't do that. They both have flush door handles, although in the BYD they pop out so you can open the door. This, you have to shove your hand in awkwardly to open the door. They're both 4.9 metres long, so they're much of a muchness. Let me know your thoughts.
So the Mazda has a choice of two different batteries, but they are very different. So the standard range model has a 68.9 kilowatt-hour LFP battery, which gives an official range of 299 miles, which is pretty respectable. And then you've got the more expensive long range, which uses an NMC battery with an 80 kilowatt-hour capacity to give it 345 miles of range. Now that might seem better, but the unusual bit is that the smaller battery actually has more power, with a 258 horsepower motor powering the back wheels. The long range has to make do with 244 horsepower, which is the car that we have here today. Yes, I did say earlier that the Mazda 6e is Chinese, which might surprise you because Mazda is a Japanese car maker, but for the 6e, Mazda has cozied up with the Chinese car firm Changan. So actually, this comparison with the BYD Seal isn't as silly as you might have thought at first. There are two Seals. You've got a rear-wheel drive and an all-wheel drive, badge design and excellence. The rear-wheel drive version comes with 310 horsepower, while the all-wheel drive version has 525 horsepower, which is quite a lot, which is the version I've got here.
They are very similar when it comes down to the numbers. Here we go. Price-wise, we only have the European pricing at the moment. We don't have UK pricing on the 6e. So we're being told that the rear-wheel drive version of this is around €45,000. The rear-wheel drive version of this is around £45,000. I mean, this isn't the rear-wheel drive version, by the way. This is the all-wheel drive excellence version. So this is about £48,500. But if you were to go rear-wheel drive in that, it's the same price. Also, batteries are very similar. So you've got in this an 82.5 kilowatt-hour battery and in this an 80 kilowatt-hour battery. But charging, this is where this is a nightmare. Right, stay with me. If you go for the bigger battery version of this, the 80 kilowatt-hour battery version, then you will be charging at 90 kilowatts, which in 2025 is not fast enough. No. Now, they told us that the reason being is because that is an NMC battery and they don't want it to overheat if it charges too quickly. But if you go for the smaller battery, which is the 68.8 kilowatt-hour battery, then that is an LFP battery. So that can charge at 165 kilowatts. This is also LFP. That charges at 150 kilowatts. You got it? Good. I think I've got all those numbers right.
But with those figures, you'll have to really need those extra, 40 odd miles to make it worthwhile choosing the pricier longer range car. By the way, if you want a full detailed look around, then our lovely Tom Barnard has already driven this out in Germany, so feel free to go and have a look at that video. Or if you want to see how the BYD fares up against a Tesla Model 3, we've got a video on that too.
At the back, even though they both look very saloony, they're very different. Huh? Saloon, hatch, saloon, hatch. This is a big space in here. This is 466 litres of space. Plus, it has a 72 litre frunk. Very good storage. If storage for you is important and practicality and getting loads of stuff in, you'd probably prefer to go for this. Because in here, it's a much more difficult situation because it's a saloon boot. That's 400 litres and it's got a 53 litre frunk. So there we go.
I'd say the back of the Mazda is probably the most interesting part of the car. It looks as though the top part actually sticks out even more than the bottom of the bumper, but it doesn't quite. I mean, it's good for aero, along with a retractable spoiler, which deploys automatically at 56 miles an hour. It can also be operated manually if you want, because you might want to impress the person behind you in a traffic jam or something.
It's good. It's very nice in here. I don't know if it's just because it's the tan, but it's very nice in here. This all just looks and feels. It's lovely. It's lovely. The seating position is very nice, but very similar to the BYD, to be fair. And this steering wheel's very nice. This doesn't have the BYD party trick where you can turn the screen, but this all looks and feels really. They've chosen their materials well. They have. We don't have the full panny roof. We've just got two separate bits, but I'm okay with that. I genuinely thought I would just immediately pick the BYD, but now I've sat in this and I'm like, yeah, it's quite nice. This feels busy though. This feels a bit too much information going on one screen. That feels way too busy. And the head-up display looks really far away. So that would take a bit of getting used to. But this screen's quite impressive as well, though, isn't it? Again, it's all in a screen. You need to get yourself used to this now. If you're going to go for some new sort of Chinese electric cars, then it's all going to be like this. And I would rather have knobs and buttons. Yes, I would. But this is what we need to get used to now. I mean, there's so many menus. They're smartphones. They are smartphones. But it means that your drive modes and your regen braking and all that will all be in your screen. Same in the BYD. They're all very, very similar. But you've got all the apps are the same. It's all the same. Same apps. So you go from that side in the Mazda and you go from the top in the BYD. That's how you do it. Oh, but you can open things. You can open the front and everything from this screen. You can't do that in the BYD. That's interesting. Heated seats, heated steering, heated everything. Yep, that's all the same. Ventilated seats, very similar. I have an annoyance though. Shall I tell you what annoys me? The fact that there is no stick for your windscreen wipers. I know the majority of us these days will just have them on automatic. Fine. But sometimes the automatic version doesn't quite keep up with how you want it to be. So it's nice to have a manual option. And the only way to do that in this car is to press this button here. Now, I think it's this one, or is that lights? That's lights. That's the wiper level. Now, the reason it's set on this is because that is how you set your favourites. So if you wanted to set your sport mode or whatever, you would save it to a star. So if you don't save your wipers on here, you're going to have to go into the screen to change it rather than just using a stick like you can in the BYD. Everything's now being put in screens and it's starting to irritate me. I just want some more sticky things to be able to change my wipers and change my lights. It's a simple thing that wasn't broke and didn't need fixing. That's all I'm saying. And a lot of electric cars are now currently putting everything in a screen. But it's a good screen. For God's sake. It's also quite nice back here, although I do have to say it feels a tad on the cramped side. And that's largely because this is a hatchback. So actually they can't put the roof any further back because the boot has to open. So it feels a little bit tight on the old headroom and doesn't feel as spacious as a BYD. But you do have screens for your climate controls, etc. Because you can close things. No! Because the camera, there's a light there. I won't fully close it. But you can close things from there and you can also move that front seat if you really want to annoy the person that's sat in that front seat. You can just move them out of the way so you can have more legroom. Treat yourself. That's going to be annoying, isn't it? That's going to be really annoying. Got kids back here. They're going to be pressing that all the time to move you back and forth. And you're going to hate that. But you've also got a couple of cup holders. Can I just say the BYD has the little handle. This one doesn't. Although everything you do touch in here does feel really nice. It does. I mean, they've thought about this, haven't they? Because sometimes you get like a full just plastic back, but that's all nice and squidge. But I do need to point out, if you've got kids or pets back here that tend to get a little bit travel sick, the BYD will be easier to clean. Right, I'll be honest, after sitting in there and now sitting in here, this doesn't feel as nice anymore. I've been driving this car for the last few months and it's suited my life and I've just thoroughly enjoyed it and gone, wow, isn't everything really lovely and, you know, nice and squishy and nice materials? And then I sat in the 6E and I went, this is much nicer in there. This is still lovely enough though. I think if that was a fully black interior with sort of like the leather seats, then maybe they'd feel more similar. But that does look so much nicer, doesn't it? Although this car does have a party trick, which the Mazda doesn't. I've never done that. I've never used it like that, ever. Even from driving the BYD Dolphin for a few months and now driving this for a few months, I've gone, wow, it does that. And then I do that. But software-wise, very similar. Actually, recently, this has had a software update, so now I can change the themes and pick different backgrounds and all that sort of stuff. And it's all very similar to what's going on in there. And I feel like a lot of the Chinese cars that I've been driving recently, so actually not too long ago, I drove the Leapmotor B10. And again, a very similar setup. So you have like the main screen and then you have this along the bottom here, which you can customize. This along the bottom, which is your permanent bit, which again, you can customize. Exactly the same in the Mazda 6E, exactly the same in the Leapmotor B10, exactly the same in the BYD Seal. It just seems to be a pattern that the Chinese brands just tend to follow because they love their tech. They want their cars to be like their smartphones, basically. I mean, both of the cars have wireless Apple CarPlay and wireless Android Auto. They both have the head-up display, although I have to say, I think the head-up display in this is better than what's in there because the one in the 6E feels too far away, whereas this feels more accessible and gives me a little bit more information. And this screen here feels less faffy than what's going on in the 6E. This just feels more crisp, easy, small amounts of information and not too much going on. It's genuinely down to personal preference, this. It really is. Although, where this wins is you don't need faffy buttons on your steering wheel to use your windscreen wipers because you just do that like every other car, you know? It's more spacious back here. It's more spacious. And I think maybe that's because this has a slightly smaller boot. So they've given you a bit more legroom back here because this actually feels way more spacious. Yes, it does feel nicer in the 6E because it's got the little digital screen there for your climate controls and stuff, and you don't have any of that back here. Oh, there's your charge ports and stuff. It just feels more spacious, but that feels nicer, is the only way to put it.
Now, we know that you're not all looking for a new EV, and that's why we've built our very own used EV marketplace at electrifying.com. It's packed with great deals and details like battery warranties, so you can buy with confidence. So just scan the QR code on the screen now so you can browse while you're still watching on your telly and that.
Okay, now here is where it isn't strictly fair to compare the two because this is the all-wheel drive version of the BYD Seal. So this has a ridiculous amount of horsepower. This has 525 horsepower. 525. This has a 0 to 62 time of 3.8 seconds. They're so proud of it that they put that number on the back of the car. But the rear-wheel drive version of this car has 310 horsepower. That will do 0 to 62 in 5.9 seconds. So technically they are both substantially faster than the Mazda. And I have to give a shout out to the BYD because I know a lot of electric cars, the power, especially if they're really fast, like what we've got here, can feel a bit too much sometimes, even when you put it in sport mode, which by the way you can do via a little toggle down here. It's not all in the screen, you can put it in sport mode with a physical button. Love this. It doesn't feel too in your face and you don't feel car sick while you're doing it. It's like it gently gives you the speed without giving you whiplash. That's what I like about this car. And I think as well the wheels of this car make it feel much softer. They're quite big sidewalls on these tyres, so it just feels that little bit softer. Also, the bing bongs in this are quite polite. they're not so intrusive, you know? It's a gentle, ooh, ah. And there's also a bit more feel in the steering in this car. Like it feels a bit more sporty, because I guess it is a sportier car, but I feel more connected to the actual wheels. So it just feels that little bit nicer. Understated, nicer to drive. Visibility is also quite nice in here. Even though it's like that saloon back and it's a smaller window than what you've got in the Mazda, visibility's still pretty good in here. It's nice. I like this car. I do. I really do. In my humble opinion, this is the best car that BYD have made. It really is. This is probably my favourite Chinese car. Now the range of the rear-wheel drive version of this is 353 miles. The range that I've been getting in this is around 311. So again, not bad at all. Those are decent numbers. Anything over a 3 makes me very happy, and I have been, efficiency-wise, getting that pretty bang on. So efficiency has been very impressive. I've been getting over 4 miles per kilowatt hour.
Now, both cars are very similar in terms of regen braking, in which there is some, but not very much. There isn't full one-pedal driving in either of these cars, so you have standard and high. I'll be honest, the high doesn't feel very high, but it does the job.
This feels a bit bumpier. This definitely feels bumpier than the BYD. It feels a bit more, like I can feel the lumps and bumps in the road a little bit more. And the steering is much lighter. The steering's quite loose actually, which for a lot of people is quite nice. But the steering, for me, I'd prefer a little bit more weight to it, like what's in the BYD. Yeah, steering's really light. Can I change the steering? Oh, I'm gonna have to go into a million menus to change the steering. Oh, menus. Vehicle settings, yes, vehicle settings. Oh, for God's sake. Driving mode. Thing is having everything in the screen means I have to look at the screen to change things, and then it tells me off for not looking at the road. I can't change my drive modes down here like I can in the BYD. It's really irritating. It's quiet enough though. I think you do get a bit more road noise in this, a bit more wind noise in this. But I think that's largely thanks to the BYD's lower nose, so it kind of makes it a bit more aerodynamic than this. So it's going to be a little bit noisier, isn't it? Yeah. It's tricky, because they're very similar. Maybe it will come down to which manufacturer you have near you. You got a Mazda dealer? Get one of these. You got a BYD dealer? Get one of those. I do feel like I'm in something nicer though while I'm driving the Mazda. Like this, just it feels like a nicer experience. Whereas the BYD just feels like a more athletic, sportier beast. And this feels more, well, look at me, aren't I doing well for myself kind of car. Businessman car, this. Businessman car, yeah, 100%. Yes. You're going to take this to the office. You're going to take the BYD down the gym. Yes, that's what it is. That's what it is. You're a gym guy, you're taking the BYD. You work in an office and you're sort of a businessman, maybe you kind of work in the city, you're going to drive one of these. Yeah, that's what it is. Nailed it. If you're both of those people, you're screwed, really.
Now, obviously, we've only had the Mazda for about 2 hours here in the UK, so I can't give you proper efficiency numbers, so do watch this space when we can get the car for a longer period of time. But if you are interested, the Mazda will be coming to the UK mid-2026.
Oh, by the way, frameless windows. Yeah, very plush. You don't get that in that. Oh, this is tough. This is tough for me. This is really tricky. Because as much as they have their similarities, they're also very different. And I've been living with that for about 5 months. And that, for me, suits my life really well. It drives, for me, beautifully. I find it a little bit softer. That's a little bit more scatty and a bit firmer. But the interior design and the materials and everything they've used in there, and actually the exterior design, I think is lovely. If I could merge the two and have like a BYD 6e or a Mazda Seal, I think that would be perfect for me. So would you agree? I don't know. I might just walk back because I just can't. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.